I always love to do these videos right when I get back from my ride because the experience is just still so fresh in my head. So I just got done riding the Mach 4, the stock Mach 4, which is the $11,600 bike that you have to pedal. It's totally bananas how expensive bikes are getting. But I mean, I own that bike. It's just been an unbelievable experience for a short travel trail bike slash cross country bike. And then Chris at Salt Cycles said, dude, you have got to try the Cannondale Scalpel SE. For $4,600 on sale right now, you're not gonna believe how good it is. And so I've had that bike for the last 3 weeks. And truth be told, I've barely touched my Mach 4. And this is really not a story of the $4,600 bike versus the $11,600 bike. It's a story from over a year ago when I raced a race called True Grit. It's a 50-mile cross-country race. And at the time, I had done it the 2 previous years on my personal Ibis Ripley, which I set up like super short travel and lightweight and kind of more cross-country-ish for an Ibis Ripley. Then the following year, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna beat my time from last year. I'm gonna buy an Ibis XE, which is a real cross-country bike, right? So that's where this story began. And on the XE, I finished 7th place. And guess what my kids said? My kids said, 7th place? That's not even on the podium, Dad. So then I started looking around for a different bike. So I figured on a cross-country bike, if I can't get on the podium, then I might as well ride a bike that's a little bit more fun than the XE. And that's how I ended up on an $11,600 bike. That's the story of how I got the Mach 4, is I thought it was split kind of between, you know, the Ripley and the XE and kind of do a little bit closer to what the Ripley does, you know, a trail bike, and still be fast like a cross-country bike. And so I thought I had the right bike. But the last 3 weeks, I learned one thing, and that's that this bike does short travel trail duty better than any bike I've ever ridden. Man, so spending as much time as I have on that Cannondale Scalpel SE, I mean, I really haven't touched my Mach 4 in a while. And so when I thought of this idea to do this head-to-head comparison between the Scalpel, which is on sale for $4,600 right now at Salt Cycles, and then this, you know, over $11,000, you know, Pivot Mach 4, I wanted to ride the stock one because I've made mine significantly lighter. So I went and got the stock demo bike from Salt. So that's why I'm on this green one today. But literally, having not ridden the Mach 4 in almost 2 weeks and just spending all that time on that Cannondale, I was blown away by the Cannondale. But I am 28 minutes into my climb right now, and you know, there's no doubt the Mach 4 climbs better. It just does. And I like the position on the bike, the geometry of the bike. You know, on paper they look almost identical. It's so crazy. But once you get out here and ride it, it's like, it's pretty crazy to see how different they actually are. Yeah. Anyway, that's why we're doing this head-to-head. Is it worth all that extra money to get this Mach 4? Man, let's find out. So how does Cannondale do it for $4,600 when, you know, in this video, the title, $11,600 bike versus a $4,600 bike, obviously they don't have the same group sets on here. You know, this has got full XT Shimano components, which is really good, and it's still a carbon frame. It's got high-level suspension from RockShox, and obviously the Pivot has factory suspension from Fox, but then it has this new fancy SRAM transmission drivetrain. That's about it. You know, it's really not that different. They both have carbon wheels. This comes with the i9 Hydra hubs, and this Black Label's Pivot carbon wheel, this Reynolds wheel. But Cannondale also has a carbon wheel, and it happens to have a DT Swiss rear hub, which for me is great news because that's my favorite hub. It comes with an 18 ratchet, you know, the star that comes in the back that shows how much engagement it has, 18 points of engagement in there. But for $125, Salt Cycles swapped it out for me and put a 54 tooth, and that's as good as the i9 in my opinion. I think that's the best hub they make right there, that DT Swiss with the 54 tooth ratchet. So what else are we missing? This has got aluminum hologram Cannondale cranks, and this has got the carbon cranks from SRAM. Both have carbon bars. I actually like the XT brakes on this $4,600 bike significantly better than these level brakes. These level brakes are scary to ride. I just rode it a half hour ago. So what are you getting? You know, I'll have to look on the computer and see how inexpensive you can get this frame, this Mach 4, with closer to XT group set, but I promise you it's not going to be $4,600. And that's why every time I get on this Scalpel for the last 3 weeks, I'm just blown away at how good a bike it is. It's as good of a riding experience as this $11,000 bike. I promise you, I've been riding this bike for the last 4 months and this one for the last 3 weeks, and it's just blown me away. The other thing to think about is what these bikes do best. They're not exactly perfect comparable bikes. This bike is a little bit more trail worthy. It's got better trail manners. It weighs about 9 ounces more, which there's 16 ounces in a pound, so about a half of a pound more than the Mach 4. But the Mach 4 feels a little bit more cross-country-ish, a little bit more racy. You know, when you stomp on the pedals with both shocks open, this one you open manually with your hand like that, you flip that little lever up, and this one has this little grip lock that'll lock that rear shock out with that little grip right there. But when you step on the pedals when they're both in the open position on the rear shock, this one feels like it's a little bit more supportive. It's a little bit more get up and go, let's go race type of feeling. And this one still, I mean, for the guy that finishes in 7th place, what does it really matter? I'm not on the podium anyway. And this one definitely descends better, faster, more stable, a little bit more composed. You just feel a little bit more locked into the bike and kind of safe at higher speeds. This one, I love the bike, but you feel like you're on the razor's edge a little bit. Not quite as much as the Specialized Epic Evo, which is also a very expensive bike, but, you know, not as forgiving as this Cannondale. That's why I mean, the first video I made of this Cannondale was 33 minutes long. It's one of my it's one of my most poor performing videos I've done. I think it's because of the 33-minute long video. But this Cannondale Scalpel has literally flown under the mountain biking radar. I don't think people realize what it is and how good it is. I'm not sponsored by Cannondale. I happen to really like Salt Cycles Bike Shop, but they carry a ton of brands, including Pivot and Cannondale and Ibis and Yeti and Transition and some other brands. I mean, I just think for $4,600, I don't think you're going to find a better bike that does short travel, kind of cross-country-ish trail duty better than this bike. I'll link them both down below. I bought my Mach 4 from Salt Cycles, and they also carry Cannondale. Call Chris today if you're looking for a trail bike that absolutely shreds and will do cross-country duty. I mean, it's a 25.5-pound bike in this size medium. I'm 5'8", and the medium on both these fit me perfectly well. But call Chris and order yours if that's what you're looking for. They're 25% off right now. I don't know how you do any better than that. And for those of you who've been around the channel and have ridden an Ibis Ripley, this is very close to my personal Ripley, which I built really super lightweight. Mind-blowing how good it is. Let's talk about a few little nuances that I've kind of discovered about the bikes since the time I've owned that one, obviously. I've been riding that for 4 months. I haven't had a single hitch in my giddy up. It just goes, it's quiet, no weird noises. I run my personal one without the little grip lock here because I just leave my shock open all the time. But it's problem free. Mine has full Shimano XTR group set on it. But this SRAM transmission, the more I ride it, the more I'm pretty impressed with it. It's pretty neat. The bike's quiet, runs good for 4 months, problem free. This thing I've had for 3 weeks. Couple things. There's some 4mm Allen wrench bolts on either side of where the end of the shock is, where it bolts in here. They got loose, made a little bit of noise, tightened them up. Haven't had a problem in the last 4 or 5 rides. Totally fine. Had to put a little grease on the shock bolt up here. That's super common though. Tons of bikes that I review, they need a little bit of grease where that shock is bolted in at the top. I don't know why. I've used the Loctite on it before, and that's helped, but that happened there. That happened on my first ride out, when the bike was straight out of the box. That was over 3 weeks ago. Did that, problem free, hasn't made a noise since. One other thing to know is both these are standard boost spacing on the front and rear wheels, right? The only difference is this rear wheel is dished in a little bit, and I don't know all the nuances about this. Talk to your Cannondale rep or to Salt Cycles, and they'll tell you it's asymmetric. And so it's my understanding that this side of the spokes are dished in about 2 millimeters. So I can't just throw that wheel and put it on here. That's something to know about this, but it has carbon wheels with good hubs. No need to swap them out anyway if it was me buying it. That's the other thing I forgot to say. On this bike, I did upgrade the dropper post. It comes with a Cannondale branded dropper post that was 125. It like went up to here. So it only dropped like probably that far. I wasn't gonna put up with that. Not in 2023. So I swapped it out for a bike yoke, but it was only $225 more, $250 more to swap that out. And what else did I do? Oh, I put the ratchet in the rear hub. That was 125 bucks. That's it though. So it's really like a $4,900 bike now. There is a difference between a $3,000 bike and a $5,000 bike, no doubt about it. You'll see the differences. A $5,000 bike and a $9,000 bike, I don't see, when I ride these two bikes, I don't see that much difference. In fact, yeah, I would easily rather spend my money on this Cannondale than that Mach 4. Even though the Mach 4, it feels really, really good when you ride it, this is 98% there. And it descends better. Anyway, this is going to be too long of a video if I keep talking. There it is. I don't think there's that much difference between a $4,600 bike and an $11,600 bike. As I already mentioned, Salt Cycles happens to be a Cannondale dealer, and this bike is 25% off right now. I owe it to the viewers to let you know how good this bike is. 4,600 bucks, that is a lot of bike, and it only weighs a half pound more than that one. My buddy Dan Brower, who I actually mentioned in the video when I first reviewed this one, he just ordered one yesterday from Chris. My buddy Luke, who I also mentioned in the video, he's ordering one. He hasn't ordered it yet, but he said he's going to pick one up for his daughter Lily, who's racing high school mountain biking. Kevin, who you see riding a couple of these videos, he's like, why do you keep talking about the Cannondale? I'm like, it's so good. And Tyler, who you see in the videos, has been riding one for a year. It's the bike that no one saw coming. I mean, this came out 2 years ago, and I was like, Scalpel, not real interested in a race bike. This is not a race bike. It can do cross-country races, but man, it's a nice short travel trail bike, and at 4,600 bucks, how do you not call Chris and order one? Anyway, I'll link his number down below. They're the bike shop that supports me and helps me out. And just to be clear about the bikes that I've personally owned this year, in the 2023 season, is I've owned an Ibis Ripley, which Salt Cycles sells, a Specialized Stump Jumper, which Salt Cycles doesn't sell, a Specialized Stump Jumper Evo that I had for almost a year, Salt Cycles doesn't sell. Let's see here. Obviously the Yeti SB140 that I love, and the Mach 4. So almost half the bikes that I've owned, I didn't even buy from Salt Cycles. So anyway, they're a great bike shop. They don't happen to carry Specialized, so if you want to Specialized, you have to go somewhere else. But they carry, 7 or 8 other really great brands. The Scalpel is probably the bike I'm most excited about just because it doesn't cost so much money. I've been buying $9,000, $10,000 bikes lately, and that's a lot of dough for a bike you got to pedal around. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I know the title of the video was a little clickbaity because they're not exact comparisons. They have different group sets, but man, the experience they give you out on the trail is about the same. In fact, I think this gives you a slightly better experience. It's a little bit more forgiving to ride, a little easier to ride, just a little more approachable. That bike's great too, but man, it wants to go fast. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.